Well, good morning again, Downsview, coming to you from our worship center here at the church. We are looking forward to, in the coming weeks, of us, I want to say filling this place with you, but of course there'll be a very small number of us. We can take 24 people to be socially, physically distant from each other, and that is by using 24 pews, and half of that, because it has to be every second pew, because it's not only people in the same pew that need to be 6 feet from you, but the person in front and behind you. And if you have someone in a pew behind you or in front of you, they wouldn't be distant apart. So essentially we can put 24 people in an auditorium. However, if we have people from the same household, not the same family necessarily, that's usually the case, but we have to use the term household because people who are in the same family, it's not that they can sit together, it's that people who are been living in the same household. So we can have 24 people as our base, and we can add up to a number 15 more people who can sit with their family members. But our magic number is 40, and we have enough room in here for 144 people. 30% of that is 43, so we're calling it, rounding the number 40. The occasional visitor who may come, we've got to leave ourselves just a bare minimum of leeway there. We're going to have to come up with some kind of reservation system to let you know, or you to let us know, what service you would like to come to, and we will let you know if there's room. When you show up, we will have a seat assigned for you, and for most of you, it will not be the seat you normally sit in, and that's significant here at Downsview, isn't it? That as you get out of your car, you'll need to do so only once you've donned your mask. You will need to walk into your church and into your seat, and once you're seated, you can remove your mask, but you can't get up and move around without your mask on. If you need to go to the washroom, you need to don your mask. If you forget something in the car to do that, you've got to don your mask. After the church service is over, we can't hang around. In fact, we'd like to institute some kind of orderly leaving, that some usher person of some kind will come and escort you and say it's time for you to go, and to take you out, and then the next person can stand and leave. You can't loiter and chat in the parking lot. We were thinking about that, might be something we could do, but we won't be physically distant. It will encourage people to be in larger groups and to hang around. Perhaps there's a local park nearby. There's another restaurant that you can grab some food and take out, and perhaps go somewhere and sit outside physically distant. Those of you in the same household can obviously return there together. Some of you may be able to sit on people's decks or porches of some kind if there's enough room on there. It's gonna be odd, friends, and I'm having trouble picturing it. Some kind of spot cleaning between the 9:30 and the 11 o'clock service. It's not going to be cleansed. It's not going to be sterilized. There will always be more that we could have done. And you and I both know that the volunteer infrastructure at our church is at a very, very low ebb. And so to overpromise that we will clean the church in between services, we will spot clean, and we will ask your help to do that. And some of you, it makes sense for you not to do that. Some of you, we're going to be asking that the seniors, the vulnerable, come to the early service, 9:30 service, because the cleansing, the most thorough cleansing, will be done Saturday before that, and so it will be the most clean of the services. And so the most vulnerable should come early. That will inconvenience some of the folks, because we fully expect that the attendance will be less earlier and probably more later. And we are fully aware that you're doing the math, some of you, aren't you? 40 people. 2 services, that makes 80. We have well over 120 that come to our services regularly on a Sunday. You know what it's like when this church is packed. There's 144 bodies that can sit 6 to a pew. When we're packed, we're on the other side of 120 people, which means each Sunday we don't have the infrastructure for everyone to come. That's hard for us to consider. If a visitor comes to the church and we're full, it doesn't matter if it's Grant Hallett or someone who's never been here before. If it's my wife, if the church is full, the church is full. And we have to cut that off. How do we say that? How do we understand that? Some of you are thinking, you can't do that. You can't do that. No, the one thing we can't do is have more than 40 people, and we cannot sit next to each other unless we are from the same household. We are not going to sing. We're not going to take up a collection. We will not have a bulletin. We will not have any opportunity for childcare. The children must stay with their parents in this room. We are not permitted by law to have a separate children's area. Now, these are all the beginnings, friends. These are all the first step towards it. And the discouraging thing is that some people are going to say, not important enough for me to come if there's any restrictions. If I can't do things the way I'm normal to do them, the way they were back on March the 8th, then I'll just wait until things could be that way. You need to know that will be tremendously discouraging to the leadership who's trying to make it so that you can come, to the fellow church members who are looking forward to seeing you and worshiping along with you. And frankly, there's some level of displeasure with the Lord Jesus Christ, who is eager for his people to be able to gather together again. You know, it's interesting to me that none of these parallels are exact, of course, but you notice that in the Gospel of Luke, in the 21st chapter, we have this account of what someone doing something that you think, why bother to just do that little pittance? And it's, of course, Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. And that's most of us at Downsview. We are wealthy. We are very well off compared to the rest of the world. We don't tend to see that in many cases, but we are very well off. We will have some kind of offering box, and we'll be putting our offerings in there. Jesus says in verse 2 of Luke 21, and he saw a poor widow, poor and widowed. Poor financially, widowed, lonely, alone, no social services to care for her. Only her family or the benevolence of other people would take care of her. And yet she put in, just the very fact that she put in 2 small copper coins, which are intended to, even in our language, think of a couple of pennies, a couple of coppers, right? And I imagine there'd be plenty of folks around like me who would think, well, isn't that a nice little trite something? But it really doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't make an impact. And in some ways you might ask the question, why bother? Well, truly, and Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow, and he mentions both descriptions, has put in more than all of them. And the them refers to the rich who were putting their offering in the box. For they all contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. Well, now suddenly it's significant. It's that she did not just what she could do, she did all she could do. And Jesus is commending her. And so I don't want to draw too narrow a line here, or too direct a line. It's a narrow and it's a fuzzy line to let's do all we can do. Even if it seems like a pittance and seems like it doesn't matter, not going to have a big impact. I mean, I get it. What do we love to do here? We love to worship our Lord in song. One thing that we cannot do, and it will be the last thing added. It is the most dangerous thing that we can do together. To get a large group of people in a small room for a prolonged period of time with lots of interaction with one another, in particular, loud talk or singing. That would be the best formula right there to spread this virus. And it just about exactly articulates what we do in a church service. But until then, friends, let's just take this, again, it's a fuzzy line. I wouldn't preach it this way, but that let's do what we can do. Let's do all that we can do. She put in all she had, even though it didn't look like much. let's do all we can do, even though it doesn't seem like much. But what a blessing it's going to be. I know I'm going to be overwhelmed emotionally, and some of you will be just thrilled to see God bring us through. And this trajectory is a trajectory that's slow but steady. We have to be patient, but this is a genuine trajectory back towards the kind of worship that we look forward to, friends. So be encouraged, and let me encourage you to consider strongly coming and do the best you can do when we can do it on the 5th of July, the Sunday. Okay, good for now. Cheers.